Production by Lianggu, Harvest, author, Yi Zi. Chapter 1. It's almost Qingming Festival. It was raining and gloomy, with no sign of sunshine. Uncle Yunpu was sitting at the gate of the Chao family ancestral hall, still wearing the shabby cotton robe he had worn in winter. His body was shaking slightly, as if he couldn't bear the chill. He looked up at the sky, muttered a few words, and then lowered his voice. There were strands hanging upside down on his beard, fluttering in the wind. Just as he wiped them away with his hands, a few more strands flowed out. Is it going to be the same as last year? OMG. He said this in a low voice, then turned back to look at his wife sitting under the stage, and said hesitantly. Chior's mother. As soon as the awakening of insects is over, the cotton pants fall off. It's almost Qingming Festival now, and I still can't take off my robe. This. Is it going to be the same as last year? Aunt Yunpu didn't answer, and was busy feeding Si Sheer in her arms. The weather was really worrying. It rained for more than 30 days in a row after the beginning of spring, and it didn't stop. People they all felt deep terror. It's always like this, the spring equinox is extremely cold, so it must be another flood year. Oh my god. If it's the same again. Uncle Yunpu turned around and looked at the sky again, tapping a dry pipe in his hand on the stone steps. That's right. Aunt Yunpu rested for a long time. He said casually, his face still facing the child in his arms. Why not? It's just after the spring equinox, and it's still so cold. Aren't the springs of the Zhengguo, Jiazi, and Bingyin years always so cold? Besides, God is going to have a lot of people this year. Uncle Yunpu objected to his wife's casual reply, as if this year's fate had already been decided here. Grandpa Guandi's spiritual lottery clearly stated, 60% to 70% of people will die this year. The many painful impressions in Uncle Yunpu's mind combined to create those terrifying factors. He remembered, in the Jiazi year, he ate wild vegetables mixed with potatoes, but he could only get one meal a day. The year of Icho was just a little better, and the year of Bingyin was called eating tree roots again. He was still young in the Zhengguo and Sinwei years, and he didn't seem to be in great pain. Only last year, oh my god. Uncle Yunpu simply can't think. Last year, there were 8 people in Uncle Yunpu's family eating and drinking, but this year there are only 6 left, except Aunt Yunpu. The eldest son Liqiu is 20 years old. This is Uncle Yunpu's right-hand man. The second son, Xiaopu, is 14 years old and has already started helping Uncle Yunpu in the fields. My daughter Yingying is 10 years old and she can follow her mother in playing bamboo hats. The youngest one is Si Sheer, who is still nursing. This is Uncle Yunpu's right-hand man. The second son, Xiaopu, is 14 years old and has already started helping Uncle Yunpu in the fields. My daughter Yingying is 10 years old and she can follow her mother in playing bamboo hats. The youngest one is Si Sheer, who is still nursing. Grandpa Yunpu and a 6-year-old Hewer. I died from eating guanine powder in August last year. Guanine powder, a kind of white fine soil. Original note. In such a lively family, there is no idle person. Who doesn't think that Uncle Yunpu will make a fortune? Yes, Uncle Yunpu is the one who should get rich. It was just because of his bad luck that he could not lift his head due to years of military disasters, floods and droughts. Otherwise, he wouldn't show weakness to others like that. Last year, this terrible last year. Uncle Yunpu himself seemed to be living a dream. For the years of war, floods and drought. He had to work hard to plant 7 more acres of Hebei's land, hoping to make a fortune. If you have a manpower in your family, if you plant an acre of land, you will get the benefit of an additional acre of land. In addition to taking in the rented grain from Hebei, there will always be a few grains that can be harvested. You can have enough to eat for a year or 2. Are you still worried about not getting rich? After making up his mind, Uncle Yunpu sold his only house to rent Hebei's farm. In February, Uncle Yunpu's family moved into this ancestral hall, cleaned the spiritual tablets for the ancestors, and received a bunch of money rewards for the spring and autumn festival. Hebei is also responsible for his own house. The rent for the 7 acres of land is still the same as before, with a yield of 30% to 70%. Uncle Yunpu can get 30% of the land, which is considered very good. At first, it really made Uncle Yunpu happy. Although my son and I put in a lot of effort, the seedlings were very good. The rainwater is also very harmonious. As long as it is properly managed and harvested, nothing will be a problem. Look at him, the seedlings have sprouted roots and buds, and they will soon be marked. If the old south wind blows for 2 or 3 days, you can see the golden millet in front of you. Uncle Yunpu really likes it. Isn't this the price of his hard work day and night? Marking line, that is, the ears of rice grow out of the buds. Original note. He almost jumped for joy. Just the day after he was about to jump for joy, God suddenly turned his face. Egg-sized raindrops came straight towards the ridge from the southwest. In just half a day, the water in the pond swelled. Uncle Yunpu immediately felt a little uneasy. He was afraid that all the good rice flowers would be knocked down by the raindrops, which would affect the harvest. Afternoon. The rain gradually stopped, and Uncle Yunpu's heart felt as light as if a heavy burden had been let go. In the middle of the night, the sky suddenly became so dark that I couldn't see my fists with my hands outstretched. The sound of gongs in all directions sounded like thunder, and the voices of people were shouting and galloping one after another. The wind howled loudly. Uncle Yunpu knew that something unexpected had happened outside, so he hurriedly called Li Chior and ran towards the sound of the gong in the darkness. On the way, Uncle Yunpu came to Shao Skartsi. Knowing that the water in the west and the south have both surged by more than 3 feet, the embankments around Kao Jialong are extremely dangerous, and the sound of the gong is calling everyone to block the embankments. Uncle Yunpu was surprised. The water suddenly rose several times in the dark night, which was a strange thing that had not been seen in 40 or 50 years. He panicked. The sound of the gong became louder and louder, and his steps became more chaotic. It was dark and the road was slippery, so I fell down and got up again. In the end, it was Li Chiu who supported him and ran. Before he had even taken 3 steps, he heard a loud cracking sound, and Uncle Yunpu's feet started to move like cotton wool. Very quickly. The waves, like thousands of horses galloping, rushed toward them. Li Chiu hurriedly carried Uncle Yunpu on his back and ran away. Just now when I ran back to the door of my head, the water had already flowed to the bottom of the steps. The embankment of the new ferry collapsed and was more than 30 feet wide. The gold in Kao Jialong turned into water. So Uncle Yunpu went crazy. Half a year of hard work and hope, the source of a family's life, were completely washed away by water in this moment. He shouted wildly all day long. Oh my God! Every particle of gold in me has turned into water. Now, Uncle Yunpu has seen such strange signs again. Why is he not anxious? Until May last year, he has not had a full meal. The water receded in early June, and the hungry people on the ridge I want to go out together to beg for rice. As soon as he arrived in Ningxiang, he was regarded as a rebel and was kicked out of the country. From now on, he was not allowed to leave the gate even half a step. It is said that in the county town, a relief fund of 30,000 foreign dollars was received, but not a single rice flour was seen in the countryside. Hebei sold 70 loads of soybeans from the province and brought them back to the ridge to provide relief. Uncle Yunpu only borrowed 5 buckets, the price was 63 yuan, and the monthly interest was 4.5 cents. There were 8 people in the family. Later, they even ate all the grass. They couldn't bear it any longer, so they knelt down in front of Mr. Heba and borrowed 3 more buckets of beans. In August, guanine powder was excavated in Huajiadi. People on the ridge rushed to dig and eat. Uncle Yunpu brought 2 or 3 loads back from Liqiu. Within 2 days of eating, Grandpa Yunpu ascended to heaven, and before leaving, he took a 6-year-old tiger with him. Later, all the hungry people on the ridge were on the verge of death. Only then did Hebei, on behalf of the hungry people, promise to the county magistrate that he would not betray the party, repeatedly asked for several passports, and escaped out of the country in separate ways. Uncle Yunpu's family was sent to a lively city and lived as hungry people for 4 months before returning home at the end of the year. This was all last year. Bitter. Who can know? At this time, people on the ridge lived by making up some improvised bamboo hats. If it rains, if each person can weave 10 bamboo hats a day, they can earn money for 2 meals of rice porridge. Uncle Yunpu and Li Chiu fell in love with each other. Xiaopu, Aunt Yunpu, and Yingying worked day and night to make up the story. Make it up. Make it up as much as you can. What can I do if I don't make it up? As long as you have the chance to wait until the autumn harvest. The spring rain has been falling for more than 30 days in a row, and the weather is so cold that everyone on the ridge has the same terrifying state of mind. Oh my God. Will this year be the same as last year? Chapter 2. The sky is finally getting warmer, and people are crawling out of the gloomy houses where they have been dormant for more than 30 days. The green faces are all covered with joyful smiles. Children, they were running around together, barefoot, playing in the soft mud under the sun. The water is always so full, no matter in the pond, in the field or on the lake. The ground is covered with young grass, and unsun-dried raindrops hang on the grass blades, like small silver beads. The willows are sprouting. In the spring scenery after a long rain, everything on this ridge is flourishing. People immediately began to be noisy and active. Looking around, there are often barefooted people walking around in the fields, wandering and watching, groups of 3 or 5. Pointing at the pond and checking the crevices, talking about this and that, they were all preparing and planning how to carry out their work in the season. The sales of bamboo hats were suddenly blocked, so that the weather was clear everywhere. Men cannot shave at home during the day. The work of women and children also invisibly loosened up, and the curse of life immediately tightened its grip on the entire countryside. Go to the fields and work hard. You have to eat while working. Uncle Yunpu prays for sunny weather all day long. His goal was finally achieved. However, the smile was very stingy and only flicked lightly on his face, and then disappeared along with the frown. He still couldn't take off his cotton robe, and the sun was shining on his body, which was only a little bit unbearable. He didn't take it to heart. He was just worried about how he could get through this urgent crisis, to eat 2 full meals of white rice to replenish his energy so that he could go to the fields. The sales of bamboo hats were gone, and the porridge in front of them became a huge panic. So Uncle Yunpu became even more anxious. He knew that his life was hard and he had never had a comfortable life since he was born. I am 50 years old this year. I have finally experienced a lot of hardships, but I have not seen the good days yet. The horoscope tellers all said, he has a good old age. However, that happened after the age of 55, and he couldn't quite believe it. The 2 sons are both ignorant. In such a critical age, how difficult it is to independently support such a family of 6. We have to find a way. Uncle Yunpu had never been discouraged. Whenever he faced such a difficult situation, he kept thinking about this sentence in his mind, and sometimes he could think of some good solutions. Today, he knew that the difficulty was getting tighter. So I put this sentence into my mind and started spinning it. Master He, Master Li, Master Chin. He walked back and forth under the stage step by step, and the shadows of these people came to his mind one by one. But those are some extremely ugly faces. Each one makes him feel strangely uneasy and frightened. He had no choice but to shake his head and sigh, throwing away all these people and turning his thoughts to the other side. Suddenly, he thought of an exception. Beginning of autumn. Can he go to Uncle Yu's house now and take a look? What are you going to do, Dad? Beginning of autumn sat at the threshold and asked him unconsciously. Tomorrow will be a good day. Everyone is getting ready to go to the fields, and we should follow suit. Work hard on the first day. You have to have a full meal. The sign will be better and you will be more energetic when working hard. There is no rice at home now, so I don't think Uncle Yu can do anything about it. Then, it doesn't matter if you go and take a look, Lu. Why bother with this trip? I think their situation is not necessarily better than ours. You are always happy to be with me. Did you know they are just like us? I asked you to go. I think their situation is not necessarily better than ours. You are always happy to be with me. Did you know they are just like us? I asked you to go there. This is a real fact. Dad, I'm afraid they are in more difficulty than us. Nonsense. Recently, Uncle Yunpu often feels that his son has become worse, and he is happy to argue with him about everything. I don't know how many times there have been disagreements over trivial matters at home. My son is always so lazy and unwilling to do things, and sometimes he is simply rebellious. Unfilial thing. Uncle Yu's family may not be as helpless as his own. Because except for Aunt Yu, there is no third person in Uncle Yu's family who wants to make a living. Last year, all the victims of the disaster fled. Uncle Wang Wu did not go with him and supported the survival of the family alone. Moreover, I have never seen him borrow money from anyone. The day before yesterday, I saw Chao Bingxing in front of Chao Bingxing's raw meat shop on the ferry, carrying a basket and buying some wine and meat. He turned around shaking his head. Why can't he do anything? So Uncle Yunpu knew that his son must have become lazy again and refused to listen to his instructions, and he couldn't help but feel angry. Are you going or not? What a bastard. You always like to confront me. There is no other way to go. Go if I want you to. You are not allowed to talk nonsense like this, it's for dogs. Li Qiu raised his head and gently put down his sword. There was a deep pain in the young man's heart. He couldn't bear to look at his father's anxious face any longer, so he turned around and left. You said, my father asked me to come here, and I asked Uncle Yu to help me. After getting over this difficulty, I immediately returned it for Uncle Wu. The moon had just emerged half of its face from the tree branches. In an instant, he was engulfed by dark clouds again. There was no star, and the surrounding area was as black as a paint board. How did Uncle Yu answer you? He didn't say much. He only said, please pay your respects to your father. I'm really sorry. Yesterday we still had old pumpkin. Today, Lu. Just this little porridge. Didn't you say that I would pay him back soon? As I said, he also showed me his rice bucket. Empty. So, who is his woman? Without speaking, he smiled. Mom's. Uncle Yunpu punched the small table hard. Then he said angrily, I saw him buying meat the day before yesterday, Mother's. If he said there was no rice today, no one would believe him. Everyone was silent. Aunt Yunpu also gathered around, and the children all pricked up their ears to listen to what their father and brother were talking about. In such a huge ancestral hall, there is not even a big light. The darkness forced everyone's moods to sink gradually. Then what will we do when we go to the fields tomorrow? Aunt Yunpu also asked very worriedly. Mom, only everyone will starve to death. This bastard was out running for such a long time and couldn't even get a single rice flour. What if you call me, Dad? Die. What dogs get into? After Uncle Yunpu cursed this harshly, he immediately regretted in his heart, death, What can we do if we seriously want our son to die? I only felt bursts of sadness in my heart, and I shed 2 old tears unconsciously. Moms. He touched the tobacco pipe, turned around and walked out. Where are you going, old man? Mom. If you don't go out and eat dirt tomorrow. Everyone looked at Uncle Yunpu's back with sad eyes, gradually being swallowed up by the darkness. The children began to kiss the Sandman, lying like hounds in the back room. Aunt Yunpu and Li Qiu were the only ones left in the hall, in severe terror. Zhang Dana's eyes, which had lost their divine light, were looking forward to the return of good news from Uncle Yunpu. The string in my heart has been tightened heavily. Late at night, Uncle Yunpu ran back with a mournful expression on his face and unloaded a small burden from his back. Moms. This is 3 yuan and 6 cents for broad beans. 6 lines of sight were cast on this small bundle, giving off a bit of hungry light. There was still a bag full of tears hidden in Uncle Yunpu's eyes. Chapter 3, At the Edge of the Field Corner. Li Qiu held up his weak hoe and waved it lazily. The excess water in the field gradually overflowed into the pond from the breach as the hoe rose and fell. His whole body felt weak, and his wrists were so weak. His usual courage had gone somewhere now. Everything is slim. He looked sadly at the wilderness. He felt, now is not the time to put in all the hard work. No one can guarantee that this kind of work will have good results. Natural and man-made disasters over the years. It hurt the young man's heart deeply. Everything in front of him made him feel too fuzzy, and he had no way to transform his life or escape from this unfortunate circle. He dragged his hoe and moved across the 3rd gap. Past events flooded into his mind. Every time the hoe hits the ground, it feels like it hits my heart. My father is old, but my siblings are still young. In the past 4 or 5 years, the end of the family has become an inevitable fact. And the way out is still so confusing. He didn't know what method to use to open up this confusing way out. Unconsciously, he thought of those words that the leprous brother in the room had secretly said to him not long ago. Now if he thought about it carefully. There are some unspeakable truths, in this day and age. If you don't rely on yourself, who else can you rely on? Everyone is the enemy of the poor. If you don't get up and work for a while, you will never get ahead in your life. Moreover, the leprechaun also said with certainty, the world will not be long. It must be for us poor people. In this way, Li Qiu recalled the grand occasion when the Peasants' Association came to power 4 years ago. What if a world like that comes again? He smiled. Suddenly, a figure passed by him, which surprised him. Looking back, it was the leprechaun in the upper room that he missed. Hey! Brother, where are you going? Ha! Li Qiu, did you go to the fields today too? Yes, brother. Come, let's talk. The hoe stopped at the beginning of autumn. Where's your dad? There's Xiaopu who's picking the grass over there. How have you been doing these days? It's not bitter. No one at home is knitting bamboo hats today. The 3 of us have gone to the fields. Last night, my father went to Heba and begged to borrow a bushel of beans, so that we could have a meal in the fields today. Be full, otherwise. Okay. Heba beans are still willing to be lent to you. Who wants to borrow his things? Damn it, my dad said so many good things. Kowtow. The price has been increased again. Well. Brother, what about you? You can't pass through the same door. There was silence for a moment. The Lepidic brother returned to his smiling face and nodded to Li Qiu. Let's talk again tonight, beginning of autumn. Okay. After the leper brother left in a hurry, the hoe in beginning of autumn was still waving at the edge of the field, making one break after another. The sun hangs high in the sky, as if telling people that it is noon. Songs that had not been heard for more than half a year were symphony melodiously. People were dragging their tired bodies back, and wisps of smoke could be seen rising from the few roofs. Uncle Yunpu's whole body ached, even though he only picked 20 or 30 loads of turf yesterday. There were countless needle pricks in the bone marrow between the shoulders and legs, and I couldn't sleep well almost all night long. When I got up at dawn, I still felt sore from time to time while walking. However, he remained calm. I tried my best to pretend that nothing was wrong, for fear that my sons would be discouraged when they saw it. You are so old after all. He was secretly sad. Li Qiu took out the only 2 bowls of beans and placed them on the table. The aroma made Uncle Yunpu's mouth water with greed. The 3 people shared it equally, and one of them only ate the first half of the bowl, but it tasted much better than usual. Half a bowl, I don't know which corner it is stuffed in my belly. I reluctantly ran to Tianzhong and struggled for a while. My whole body was as if I was carrying 1,000 pounds of brake, unable to move. He couldn't even lift a hoe or a disease, his eyes felt dizzy all the time, and the world seemed to be spinning around him. After going around in circles for 3 times, I was finally driven back by my stomach. What's the point of going on like this? Children and adults were all gathered together, with blood-red flames coming out of their eyes, big and small. They looked at each other for a while, feeling that they had nothing to say. Oh my God. Uncle Yunpu gritted his teeth and mustered up his last courage. Then he walked towards Hebei's village. On the way, he thought about how he should speak to Master Ba this time when he met him. He planned it step by step, and then walked into the village gate. What's the matter with you, Yunpu? Master Ba asked, sitting on the Taisha chair. What? I want to ask Master Ba again. Doozy? I can't lend it to you anymore. With so many people on the ridge, I can support your family alone. I can repay Master Ba with extra money. Whoever cares about your profit will not benefit others? That can't work. Ba Yi. You old man must save me. Our family has. Go. How can I control so much of you? Go for it. Ba Yi, help me. Uncle Yunpu cried anxiously. Our family has. Go. How can I control so much of you? Go for it. Ba Yi, help me. Uncle Yunpu cried anxiously. Mr. Ba's long-term worker ran out and pushed him out of the gate. Morning. You old ghost. The long-term worker cursed fiercely. Then the door was closed. Uncle Yunpu walked back step by step, mumbling with self-pity. Why didn't he follow the predetermined words and say them sentence by sentence, so that the matter had no results at all? Current difficulties. Is there any other way to get through this? When he reached the entrance of Sifang Pond, he suddenly stopped and looked at the oil-green pond. If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't leave behind this group of people, he really wanted to just jump down and end the rest of his life. Aunt Yunpu and her children stood at the door of the ancestral hall, looking forward to the good news about Uncle Yunpu. Hunger burns in everyone's heart like a wild flame. His eyes were so red that he was dizzy, and he could not see Uncle Yunpu who had returned with the good news. Oh my gosh. If only there was an immortal who could give them a full meal at this time. Jingqing Baldi brought a bearded man into the room. Uncle Yunpu's heart felt like there were thousands of sharp knives piercing it. My hands and feet were shaking constantly. Tears rolled down one after another. Rang entered the main room, casually took a bench for them to sit on, and stood on the other side. Aunt Yunpu was still hiding inside without getting up, her eyes were already red and swollen from crying. The children, the younger two, were lying down and could not get up. His face was as yellow and thin as a withered vegetable leaf. Li Qiu leaned against the door, and Xiaopu stood behind his brother, his eyes moist. They looked at the bearded man absently, and then turned their heads to the other side. There was silence for a while. The beard seemed to be unable to bear it. Jingqing, where is the child now? She's still in there. She's 10 years old and her name is Sister Yingying. The bald man nodded, as if telling him not to be impatient. Aunt Yunpu walked out of it. Her feet weighed 1,000 kilograms and she held a pair of patched clothes in her hands. I was so scared that I lost the host. When he saw the bald man, he just shouted, Uncle Jingqing. And then burst into tears like rain, and couldn't say another word. Uncle Yunpu secretly touched his face with his sleeves. Li Qiu and Xiaopu also lowered their heads and sobbed. The bald man panicked, glanced at the beard anxiously, turned back to Aunt Yunpu and said comfortingly, Sister-in-law. Why do you have to be so sad? The bald man panicked, glanced at the beard anxiously, turned back to Aunt Yunpu and said comfortingly, Sister-in-law. Why do you have to be so sad? Yingying went with this Mr. Xia, it's better than staying at home. She has food and clothing, and maybe she can find a good master. Enjoy your life. Didn't Zhu'er from Gixing's family and Taoxiu from Lin Daosan's family all go well? And, Mr. Xia. Uncle. I can't sell her now. Last year we went to Hubei to beg for rice, but despite the hardship we were not willing to sell it. I can't sell it anymore this year, she. My hero, my flesh. Woo. Oh. Xia Huzi glanced at Baldi. Yunpu. How? Changed your mind? It was said very well last night. The bald man asked Uncle Yunpu anxiously. Before he finished speaking, Aunt Yunpu rushed towards Uncle Yunpu, crying and cursing, "Old ghost. It's all your fault. If you can't feed your children, what kind of idiot are you? Trying to sell my daughter without food. Don't die yourself. Come on, old man. Everyone worked hard to get a clean result. If you want to sell my daughter, you must not. Moms. Didn't you say that last night? It's not like I alone make the decision. Bald man, look at whether she is a prostitute or not." Uncle Yunpu quickly took a few steps back, his face covered with tears. "Let's go. Mirror clear. Come. Yunpu. I'll go outside and have a few words with you." The bald man took Uncle Yunpu away. Aunt Yunpu was still sobbing. Li Qiu came up to support her and sat on a short stool. He knew that the cause of this tragedy was not simple. The family went without food for 3 days. No one wants the bamboo hat, and the fields cannot be left uncultivated. So when Jingxing Baldi came to lobby last night, he didn't express any fierce opposition. Although he is sad about his sister and does not want her to be sold to others. However, apart from this, there is no way to solve the current crisis. He was in deep ambivalence, longing for the whole night. He couldn't bear to take another look at the girl who was about to be sold. He got up before dawn. Now, since my mother is so sad. Why would he dare to say that he wants to sell his girl? Mom, forget it. Let them go. Aunt Yunpu didn't answer. Bald man and Uncle Yunpu also walked in from the front door, and everyone was silent for a while. "Sister-in-law. What should we do?" said the bald man. Uncle Jingqing. "My Yingying is gone, can she come back?" "Yes, if the master is close. Moreover, you can visit her often." "How far?" "No. Sister-in-law. It's all this old ghost's fault, he wouldn't have died early." Yingying ran out with Si Sheer in her arms. I was very surprised to come into contact with this strange environment. He handed Si Sheer to his mother casually and looked around with a pair of round eyes. Everyone felt heartache again, except Jingqing Baldi and Xia Huzi. "Is that her?" Xia Huzi was confused by bald man. He looked at Yingying and said. As a result of several negotiations, Xia Huzi was only willing to pay 2 yuan a year. Yingying is 10 years old, 20 yuan. In addition, both parties will each give Baldi $1 as an introduction fee. Ah! What a world this is. 19 pieces of snow-white light. When it fell into Uncle Yunpu's hands, he was as horrified as a wooden chicken. I tried my best to wipe away my tears with my sleeves and looked at the foreign money carefully for a while. Oh my god. Is this foreign money my baby Yingying? Aunt Yunpu gave Yingying a set of clothes that had been hung up to put on. He told her that she was going to Uncle Xia's house for a few days to eat and then come back, but Yingying couldn't stop her tears after all. Mom, can I come back tomorrow? I don't want to have a full meal alone. Everyone stared at Yingying with tears in their eyes. Take 1 or 2 more glances, this is the last time we meet. When bald man took Yingying away, Aunt Yunpu really went crazy and wanted to catch up with him several times. In the distance, I heard Yingying turning around and calling twice. Mom. I don't want to eat enough alone. I'll be transferred here tomorrow. Life was maintained for the time being. 19 yuan could only buy a little more than 2 loads of grain, which was enough for 5 people to eat for 60 or 70 days. It is up to the father and son to work hard to find a new way out. There are only 3 days left until the tomb sweeping day sowing season. Not a single family in the ridge grew grain, so Hebei personally went to the county treasury to discuss this matter with his grandfather. If the seeds are not planted in time, there will be no harvest in the autumn. Everyone is looking forward to the good news about Mr. He, but they will not be disappointed. Because I borrow it every year. The county magistrate himself understands, officials come from the people, and the people come from the soil. If the seeds are not taken care of, no one will be able to reap any benefits at the end of the year. So Hebei agreed quickly as soon as he said it. Send 1,000 tons of grain to Ko Jialong. Hebei is in charge. Mom, it costs 11 yuan per load to grow grain, and you still get 4 cents of profit. This is completely exploited by the bastard Heba. Everyone was so angry and scolded, and everyone was picking out the millet in Heba's village. Life and work. We intensified our attacks on the countryside. People are struggling desperately because they have pinned all their hopes on this great autumn harvest. Chapter 4. After planting the fields and pulling out the 2-head grass, God wants to go against the poor again. There was no light rain for more than 10 days in a row, and the sun hung in the sky like a blazing fire. There is no water in the field, only the soil is slightly moist. After selling his daughter, borrowing grain, and finally planting the fields, Uncle Yunpu was already so busy that he couldn't breathe. Fertilizer has not been delivered yet, and the weather is refusing to rain. I am really anxious. If you really want to make trouble, you have to prepare as soon as possible. He ordered Li Qiu to go to the stage to take off the car leaves and repair them. There will be no rain for another 3 days, and it will be impossible to avoid traffic. People are praying in their hearts, God, please take pity on us and drop some rain. 1 day, 2 days, God's heart is so hard. He actually pretended not to hear people's prayers, and they remained cloudless. The flaming sun. It aroused the existence of the universe into a rage. Everything, at this time, also showed signs of withering due to dry heat. The soil in the fields has dried up, and many of them have broken open with irreparable cracks, like the mouths of wild beasts. Waves of hot air spurted out. There was really no way to delay it any longer. There were the sounds of water wheels in Zhangjiachuo and Zindaku, and the seedlings were dejectedly telling people their plight. Many leaves have been rolled up. The pain left by last year's flood has not been eaten yet. Who is willing to watch it die this year? Even if you risk your life, you still have to struggle for a while. After breakfast, Uncle Yunpu personally carried the long cart on his shoulders. At the beginning of autumn, he supported the frame of the cart, and Xiaopu carried a few bunches of cart leaves. Walking silently towards Sifang Pond. The sun was shining on my back, and I felt a stinging heat. Even the soil on the ground was so hot that I had a fever. Mom. Why is it so hot? There is the sound of water wheels on all sides, and the water in the pond is transferred to the fields manually as much as possible. Uncle Yunpu's car has also been arranged. The 3 of them stepped on it together, the wheels were turning, and the water crawled out of the car box, and they rushed towards the field. Sweat flowed from the top of everyone's head to their heels. The sun has moved to the top. The earth is burning like fire. There are often wisps of green smoke coming out of people's mouths. My feet gradually became heavier, and the pedal of the water wheel was like a rock weighing 1,000 kilograms, which I couldn't step down even with my life. Waves of soreness spread from the hamstrings to the whole body and to the top of the head. It was as sad as if someone was cutting flesh and digging out tendons with a small knife. Xiaopu, in particular, felt even more strange pain in his body that was not yet fully developed. Why isn't Uncle Yunpu the same? A few aging bones of the feet. Originally, he could not bear it even after taking 3 or 5 steps. However, he could not be discouraged. God told him to endure hardships and even die. He had to muster up the courage of his sons entirely on his own. Besides, it was the first time today that he was in trouble. How could he complain first? No matter how much you suffer, you have to endure it. Work harder, Xiaopu. He often reminded his young son like this, but he gritted his teeth and stepped on hard. It was so painful that I couldn't bear it anymore, so I shed the tears that I had been holding back for a long time. It dripped with sweat beads. Finally, Aunt Yunpu's lunch was delivered, and the father and son climbed out of the car. Oh my God. Why do you have to go against us poor people? Uncle Yunpu stroked his legs. Xiaopu looked at his mother with a sad face. Mom, these 2 legs of mine are useless. It doesn't matter. Now eat more food, come back early in the afternoon, rest for a while, and you will be fine. Xiaopu didn't say anything anymore, and picked up a bowl to serve the rice dot. After days of hard work. Uncle Yunpu and Xiaopu were both like lame people. God is still as cruel as ever. The water brought down by the truck in 1 day is only enough to sustain the life of the seedlings for 1 day. Li Qiu is the most capable person. He has never felt the pain of his father and younger brother. However, he is always lazy and refuses to work very hard, as if driving and farming is not what he should do now. I am often away from home and have to look for something everywhere. This made Uncle Yunpu even more angry. This is a lazy spirit. Disobedient and unfilial bastard. The moon emerged from the treetops, spreading a silver-gray light in the dark world. The night was not as hot as the day, and there was often a breeze blowing in the fields. There were few people enjoying the cool air outside. Except for the woman and a few children. People took advantage of this clear and moonlit night to step up their work. The sound of water wheels on all sides, mixed with moving songs, can be clearly heard in people's eardrums. Summer nights are very suitable for farmers' work, without the arrogance, heat, and noise of the day. Uncle Yunpu was as irritable as a mad bull because he couldn't find Li Qiu. I told him carefully during dinner that the weather was very good tonight. You must do night work before you can go outside again. Unexpectedly, he couldn't see anyone in the blink of an eye, which really made Uncle Yunpu's stomach burst with anger. Recently, some people often come to Uncle Yunpu and say, "This child has become bad in Li Qiu. I don't know that he runs out every day. Let's do something together with the leprechaun and his gang." Everyone advised him to exercise strict control so as not to cause serious trouble. After hearing this, Uncle Yunpu wanted to bite his teeth several times. Now, the more he thought about it, the more irritable he became, calling him from the upper village to the lower village. Not even the shadow of Li Qiu was seen. He turned around and told Xiaopu to go to the water truck and wait for him. If he couldn't find it, the old man and the young man would have to go to the water tanker to get to the fields. So he clenched his teeth again. Prepare to fight for your life with this unfilial thing. After going around in big circles for 3 or 4 more times, I still couldn't find it, so I had to walk back angrily. In the distance, I suddenly heard the sound of my water wheel, and I hurried to catch up. Aren't they Li Qiu and Xiaopu sitting in the car? He was so angry that he couldn't say a word. After a long while, he cursed with all his strength, dash. You bastard. Where are you collecting the corpses right now? Choke. Aren't I just sitting here enjoying the traffic? Li Qiu replied solemnly. Moms. Uncle Yunpu stared at him hard, then climbed up and stepped on the wheel. The moon rose from the top of the village to the top of the trees, and gradually set towards the west. The fields slowly became quiet. White clouds the color of fish belly are already floating in the east. A few scattered stars were still flashing in the sky. The rooster had crowed twice. Uncle Yunpu got up from the darkness, looked at the sky and let out a long sigh of relief. The hard work day and night really made him feel a little unable to support himself. The muscles and bones of the whole body. I often feel pain in my dreams. But he would not slack off for a moment or say a few words about fatigue and pain. Because he is afraid of giving a bad impression to his sons. Life spurs him to work, and he can never complain. Now he has grasped a new glimmer of hope. He can still hope for autumn. When autumn arrives, the world he dreams of will come true. Now, he has to get up very early. This is still summer, autumn is still far away, and the world of dreams is still far away. The children were sleeping like pigs. Young people are always so sweet in their dreams. He was really envious. For the sake of the autumn harvest, and for that dream world, even though the sky was not very bright yet, he had to bear to call all his sons, dash. Get up. Beginning of autumn. Xiaopu, Xiaopu. Get up. What's going on? Father. It's still dark. Xiaopu was woken up. It's already dawn, let's go to the traffic. I just fell asleep and didn't even turn over, and it's already dawn. Ugh. That's beginning of autumn. Beginning of autumn. Get up. Hello. Get up. What dogs get into? In the end, Uncle Yunpu dragged each son's ears with his hands before pulling them up. Damn it, it's all dark on all sides. Li Qiu rubbed his eyes and realized that it was not light yet, and he was unhappy. You bastard. I barked for a long time before I woke you up. Are you still not convinced? Moms. Stand up. Stand up. Don't know what to do when you get up in the dark. Even if you risk your life, you will just be a slave for someone else. You lazy spirit. Who is someone else's slave? Isn't it? Threat the crops. Let's see how many you can get and what you can get. Nonsense. Mom, are there going to be a group of robbers coming to take it away from you? You cock-chewing bastard. You've been just dumping corpses outside recently, so don't worry about anything at home. I only know how to be lazy, you have changed. Shit. People say you hang out with the boss and the others. You must have become a party. Uncle Yunpu was so angry that he wanted to catch his son immediately and bite him to vent his anger. The voice became louder and louder. Aunt Yunpu was also awakened by him. What's the fuss about in the middle of the night, old man? My son works hard all day long, so he should let them sleep. Look, it's not dawn yet outside. It's all your fault, old pig, for raising these naughty bastards. Old ghost. Who are you scolding? I scold you for being such a lazy pig. Good. Old ghost, you are crazy. If you hate them, you can kill them one by one. Why do you need to slowly grind them to death like this? Otherwise, sell them all, lest they sting your eyes. In the middle of the night, there was so much noise from all over the place. Uncle Yunpu was so irritable that he went crazy. He felt that his wife had been protecting the children even more unreasonably recently, without caring about the livelihood of the family. You pig woman is crazy. Do you want to eat? You. Okay. I'm crazy. Old ghost, if you want to eat, you can sell your daughter. Now you can sell your son again. Give me back my ying. Old ghost, I don't want my life anymore. Oh. Such a rambunctious guy, your mother's. Old Wangba. Old thief. If you don't have the ability, don't raise children. If you raise them, you will do them evil. Women are easy to sell. Men will also drive them to death. In the future, you will be the only one left. My Ying. Old thief, get it back. Ah. She rushed towards Uncle Yunpu crying and cursing, thinking of Ying. She wanted to devour Uncle Yunpu. Moms. Ying. It's not just for me. Uncle Yunpu quickly avoided her, and when he thought of Ying, tears fell involuntarily. Give me back my Ying, you old ghost. Ah. Dongfang turned white. His son stood like a wooden chicken. He heard his father and mother mention his sister. I also shed a few painful tears. The sky is still sunny again. Li Qiu secretly pulled Xiaopu, picked up the hoe and rake and left. Uncle Yunpu followed him out of the door step by step with an annoyed and hurt look on his face. Ah. The morning breeze blew through the fields, and the oil-green seedlings stirred up waves. Everyone felt the coolness unique to the early morning. Which side is the car on today? Mom, go to Huajiadi. Chapter 5. Li Qiu. Your heart is not sincere, I don't want you to lift it up. Uncle Yunpu holds the umbrella of all people. The second Scar boy plays the gong. Is there anyone who plays the suona? Boss Wang, where is your suona? Moms. It seemed like it was anyone's fault. No one was willing to contribute, and there were still 3 bearers missing.